for once. Nice and calm. You're almost there.
Yeah, I did it. I cried 2 tears in a bucket. Fuck it. Let's take it to the stage.
You dig it? You knock a dude down, you get some respect.
That's Mr. Boomer. Ah, pain in the building. He don't take no. No. He don't take no. No. He don't take no. Mess. You can call him old as dirt, but that man know his worth. Our pain got the mic tonight. Better get your mind right. Who that? Our pain. Who that? Mr. Boomer. Who talking truth? Our pain. Our pain. Who keeping it real? Mr. Boomer. Yeah. Politics. Family. Relationships. Reality. If it's on your mind, he's talking about it tonight. Mr. Boomer. That's 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 Mr. Boomer. All pain don't bite his tongue. You tell it like it is, whether you're old or young. Black men unfiltered. Yeah, we bringing that fire. When our pain hit that microphone, the conversation gets higher. Mr. Boomer, all night, all pain. Tell the truth, Mr. Boomer. We're rocking with you.
Hey, listen, man. When you have a song like that, you got to come on live. You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness, man! It's a good Monday wake up song, even though it's 7 o'clock in the evening. Welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. We're going to talk about the Manosphere. I would imagine, I think everybody can hear me. Looks like all my stuff is on. And I don't know how deep I'm going to get with this thing. I just had to still talk about it. I haven't talked about the Manosphere at all myself. But we're going to have a couple of things because the Manosphere is under attack, of course. But first, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that Cash App for the channel, the super chat or whatever. And, of course, Black Man Unfiltered, a little bit of coin to keep this thing going. And, it's okay to show up on a Monday and have some fun talking to this stuff with y'all. I'm going to drop the link early. I got a few videos, but it'll probably be better with people talking about their opinions on the Manosphere as opposed to just me talking about it. I think it's a safe space for men to talk. And it's under attack. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. What's that? Mr. Majesty. Yeah, there you go. Catilia, thank you. This is me, of course. Catilia, thank you for showing up. I appreciate you being here, of course. And so, listen, I just say this is really what we're going to look at today is a couple of things. It won't be too deep. One, is the Manosphere under attack? And it is. It's always under attack. It's been that way since the beginning. But the attacks, even though they seem really robust, they've been ineffective in recent times because men need a space to talk, and we're demanding it. We're not asking anymore. So that's cool. Some people think the Manosphere is dead, and that's only because there's a lot of male content creators who don't like to be labeled Manosphere, but their content is male-centric, and men have plenty of safe spaces to go or spaces to go to talk about male content. And we'll get into some of that details later on. Of course, every panel, every show, every blog is not the same. There are rage panels and things of that nature. And I stay away from those because I don't think it's necessary. There are men with scarcity mindset. They want to try to fit women in a box that they don't belong in anymore. And they have trouble adjusting to recent times. So they get mad and they stay there. And you can't get stuck in red pill rage. So that's one of the things that the Manosphere takes a hit for. But there's plenty of places for people to go, men to go, to listen to male content from the perspective or looking at the world from the prism of how men see it, as opposed to how the gynocracy looks at the world, especially in America now, especially with the liberals who own the media. They own the media, and pretty much all forms of the media are run by, liberals, females, liberals. They're feminine centric. Political party, Democrats are feminine centric. And, for some men, I can't follow that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about feelings and not about facts. And that's why the country is so open now to all kinds of, weaknesses. So anyway, that's one thing. Even let me say this one political thing about the battleship that's out in the Persian Gulf. I've never heard that the guys have been deployed for less than a year, and they say that soldiers are trying to commit deletions, self-deletions, because they've been on a boat for 10 months. I can't believe that story. It sounds really crazy to me. I can't see a Chinese soldier calling his wife and crying about the conditions on a boat and stuff like that. I mean, the man, it sounds really crazy. Now, they are sending a new carrier out there, and they're bringing these guys home, which is a good thing. But I've never in my life heard these kind of stories coming from a boat where guys are saying they want to jump overboard as opposed to having to spend one more day on the ship. After 10 months? Stop. So there's certainly an exaggeration. So, men need spaces where they can talk and relieve the pressure of life, from a male-centric point of view. Because I can tell you, if I was in a room full of soldiers and I hear some of the belly aching that they're talking about there, I would tell them, what the hell's the matter with you? Suck that shit up. This thing ain't going to last forever. Stop. 1 year? Not even a year, 10 months. I know it's grueling, but for heaven's sakes, guys, most of the time you're probably just chilling. Golly. So anyway, that's just one of those kind of things. So men need spaces to go where they could offload pressure. And I think the Manosphere does that. But before we get into all the details, and for all of you people out there, I have like this, what I call icebreakers. And this one has nothing to do with the Manosphere so as much as it's kind of irksome to me. And maybe it shouldn't be, but you guys tell me this. I have this clip where Dennis Rodman's daughter, Trinity Rodman, her husband or her boyfriend, not even husband, her boyfriend, they just started going with each other for a little while. They just outed each other. So he's getting ready for the Canadian Open or something like that, I believe. And he's in a hotel room and she just shows up out of nowhere. Now, he didn't know she was coming. And so she calls herself surprising him. And all the ladies are saying, yeah, that's so sweet, blah, blah, blah. But as a man, the only thing I thought was that she was trying to catch him in some kind of nefarious action. So I'm going to throw this up there. All right. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me. But I don't think this is as innocent as they trying to portray this. But maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being a little too cynical. You guys tell me.
Oh, but it's so hot. Please. Happy match day. Yes, so you survived.
Okay, all right. Let me cancel that. All right. So it's just me. Just. Well, did she try to catch him in some kind of bad position? I mean, this is a sidebar, but and maybe I'm just being cynical, the man in me or something. I don't know. Listen, I saw his first reaction. I'm gonna play it again. Hold on for a second. I'm gonna go back. Play it again. Hold on for a second. I want to make sure it's here. All right, I'm gonna play it again, and I'm gonna stop it. That reaction right there. That reaction right there. Now, okay, this is his first reaction. It's not a smile, okay? It is absolutely not a smile. You guys, I think that the ladies out there will try to show some shit. Now, this is his girl. I think they're starting to fall in love, but I'm not so sure they're there yet. This guy is a renowned tennis player. She's, first of all, Trinity Rodman is a badass in her own right. Okay, what I'm saying? Let's not mistake that, okay? She is primo soccer player, primo, top of the line, with a name. So it's not just, let's just look at them as equal people trying to, mesh together as great sports athletes, okay? So not one better than the other. But I could tell you that I doubt he would go to a hotel room where she's at without somehow arranging to let her know he's coming first. So that look on his face is like, it's like, you know what? I'm going to smile. Let me do this. Okay. Yeah. Now, behind this door right now is him composing himself. Okay. He's composing himself. Do you know what I'm saying? He is really, because he is saying, this chick is crazy. She is crazy because, lucky for him, he didn't have no bust down in there, but he had to close that door to get his head right. So when he reopens it, he's smiling.
Oh, but it was so hot. Please.
Okay. Am I reading too much in this? I'm proud of the guy because he, all the range of emotions that hit him when he closed that door, to compose himself, to reopen it with a smile on his face, to disarm her, and by saying, holy shit, I'm glad I didn't have no bust down in here right now. I am glad I did not have a bust down. She just left maybe last night, but she was, I'm only joking. He probably smart enough to know that he wouldn't bring a girl to his hotel room. Now, there's all kinds of range of emotions that I'll be going through. First, why would they give her his room number, right? Because that's supposed to be against the whatchamacallit, right? The rules, right? So she's up banging on his door. I don't know. See, now, if she was my wife, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But as just my girl, just getting to know you, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Or was she trying to, do you think she was trying to, I don't know what fucking angle you're talking about, man. So listen, am I crazy? Somebody tell me, am I crazy? What angle? Anyway. Yeah, so listen, I just wanted to show that at all, just to let you guys know what was happening, okay? All right. So anybody had any statements on that, any more on that one, just let me know. Yeah, we prefer you to cam up over here. Yeah, we do. We make some exceptions once in a while, but we usually want to know who you are, because we don't want to say somebody doing some crazy shit. So if you can't cam up, maybe next time we have, maybe, you can do it next time. But yeah, we want to talk about a little bit about the Manosphere. But if you're in the chat, and you got something to say, just let me know. All right. So I just wanted to show that one. Maybe I'm dragging it out. Okay. I'm glad I made you happy, black man. All right. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. All right. Anyway, All right. So listen. All right. So I have another icebreaker that is more attuned to what the topic is today, and it has to do with men having a space to talk, right? Because this is not boy, it's just passport brother, but he's called the average man unplugged, and he clips a little bit about Kendra D talking to a guy who's coming back off a date off of her new show, and the date didn't go that well. But I give it to Kendra because she kind of calls out the women on a date. But I want y'all to hear the transaction between this guy. It's not going to be long. It's like 3 or 4 minutes. The transaction between the guy and the girl when she first meets him, what she says, and how he views her. And again, one of the things that I think is that so many shows over the years have been female centric for like the last 60 years, decades, or whatever, from Oprah Winfrey to Ricky Lake to all of these kind of things. And now even Kendra's show, because she's definitely female centric. It's I give her kudos for letting a man come on her show and at least saying his piece, right? Because she generally comes down hard on the men. And so, but I want to just show it kind of to get the juices flowing, because these are the reasons why the manosphere is necessary. So guys can get it off their chest on what they have to do and what they go through when they're just dating or just meeting chicks, and the craziness that women have in terms of the recent thing now is how come men don't approach women, right? And 10 months ago, I swear, TikTok was flooded with women saying they don't want men to approach them. Don't approach me in the grocery store. Don't approach me in the parking lot. Don't approach me in the library. Don't approach me anywhere. Don't approach me except at the bar where you could buy me a drink. Right? And even then, if you don't look good enough to me, I'm not going to spend any time with you. I'll take the drink and walk away. And so men are saying, you know what, this shit's crazy. So we got to have spaces where we say, listen, this is bullshit and I'm not doing it anymore. Okay, so let me go ahead and play that particular clip. And it's I'm gonna just get to it where it's at. And it's crazy. It really is on the shit that guys have to go through. All right. Things that men have to go through. All right, this is the clip, and we're gonna start. So I kind of gave you the background. So this is the guy who went on this little dating thing from Kendra's show, and they're gonna go. He didn't see the clip of the lady saying how she felt about him. So this is him looking at it for the first time, and this brother here in the corner is the guy from Average.
So you can see it.
Play it.
Should I play it so you can
Play
see
it.
Okay,
Let's
I'm
do
gonna
it.
do this. I'm gonna play the part that went viral, and I'll get your reaction, because I can tell you, but I think playing it for you would be better.
Yeah,
So,
play it.
I'm
I
gonna
heard
pull
she
it
wasn't.
up.
I heard she wasn't nice.
Yeah, I don't know if she was the nicest. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna play it. So can you'll be able to hear, right?
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
First impression when I saw my date, I was so disappointed because he's not my typical type. I like high yellow men with lots of tattoos. So
wow.
he just seems boring. He just looked
wow.
boring to me.
That was your husband, girl. That was your.
She likes. Look, I mean, and she's mid at best. Okay, she likes light-skinned dudes, her preference, with a lot of tattoos. What do you mean on their neck and their face? What are you talking about? All right, so okay, he's eliminated. So she was disappointed when she saw him. Now, mind you, just some backstory. She has 2 kids from 2 different men. Okay, now he has children too, but she has 2 kids from 2 different men, and she has these standards that she can have them. She can have the standards she wants, but.
Husband right there. The
Let me tell you something. If I marry that, he's gonna have to be like a whole lot of money. Like a whole lot of money. I'm okay with selling.
Well, I gotta make a whole lot of money.
Make a whole lot of money to marry that.
My friends will understand.
Yeah. You can't make this shit up, people. You cannot make this shit up.
I know y'all heard that. I know y'all fucking heard that. This woman literally said so that way my friends would understand. Oh my God. My God, my God.
Now let's kind of examine that a little bit, right? Now suppose this guy does have a lot of money. Okay, let's just suppose. So she'll be with him because he has a lot of money. But when she's with her friends, she's gonna say that all he is a trick, right? He's a trick. And since he has money, he can probably give me the things I want and I'll stay with him. And you know how many, there's a lot of men who would miss this red flag, who would miss that, okay? Who would miss and somehow get into a relationship with a woman like this who would do him wrong at the first way if she could capture his money.
And not only that is telling with the fact that you said, oh nah, if I dealt with him, he would have to make like a whole lot of money. You know what I find very triggering and hypocritical about that? Because nowadays, average to slightly above average looking women at one point used to do and be willing to do a lot more to make up for their lack of looks in order to obtain men. But because their ego is so inflated now, they all think they 8s, 9s, and 10s now too, and that's why they all moving like this. And this is what you get. A whole bunch of this.
This is bullshit.
Right, bro, they on the same level for real. This is ridiculous.
And that's another thing. They are on the same level. If you're talking about looks, right? I mean, she's not bad looking, and neither is he. But these are the kind of people who are not, breaking down model doors like, 8, 9s, and 10s, right? These are the kind of people who should be kind of getting together on some kind of rational way. But the woman, her head is not in the right spot because she thinks she deserves more. She thinks she deserves more. Now, there's the full conversation with her and Kendra go, and we're not going to go through that, but she acts like she deserves more. And she couldn't even see the fact that she has 2 kids by 2 men, that she still requires the princess treatment.
What? You can't stand next to me and like that doesn't even look right, especially with my profession. That don't even
sit next to you with your wig or without your wig?
I don't have a wig on.
This is your real hair? Oh, okay. Well, shots fired. That's okay. when you got real, this is the real hair confidence, child. Let me see if it's her real hair for sure. Let me put my
front is.
You
said a wig.
Wait, hold up. This ain't her real hair.
Stop the cap. No bullshit.
So she's even lying. I mean, the chick is even lying right in front, bold-faced lie about that being her hair.
Check out the full episodes.
So this brother, we're gonna go ahead. Now he said that one of the things crazy.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, so it just go to show you.
One of the things he said, and we're gonna move on, is that he thought she was kind of phony when he met her. Right. And so this is the first time he saw that clip. And so this kind of reinforced his feeling that she was kind of phony. So he was picking up on some of her vibe already. You know what I'm saying? So this is the kind of awareness that men need to have when they're dealing with women. I mean, in general. Now, women have their own so-called, first of all, women's intuition is bullshit, right? Because if it was really true, they wouldn't be picking on so many fucked up guys. Okay, so their intuition we know doesn't work, right? So, but men can't afford those kind of mistakes. You really can't afford those kind of, but neither can the women, to tell you the truth. But men, you actually pay for those kind of mistakes, but women do the heavy lifting by bearing the burdens of those mistakes for years. So anyway, so the intuition thing is just bullshit, okay? Especially for women, they don't got any. But for guys, you got to pick it up because you make one mistake, you're paying for 18 to 21 years. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think the Manosphere is the place where men have the space to actually kind of ferret some of these things out. If I'm not sure about, how to approach a lady, you can come to the man. You can come to some of these content creators and pick up a little bit of game. You could come to these MILF spaces and talk to other men, about some of their experiences. Now, you don't have to follow like an Andrew Tate to become a man or anything like that, or treat a woman other than what she needs to be treated. But you could come to this kind of spaces and talk to a guy and saying, listen, If you see a woman behaving outside of what you can deal with, then she's just not for you. You know, sometimes that's what the guys need to hear. Listen, man, that fine honey over there is probably high maintenance, and it's not just about money. You're gonna have to have control of your emotions, because guys are gonna hit on her all the time. If you can't handle that, then she's not for you. You know what I'm saying? If you can't handle that kind of woman, you can't try to tame her. But some dudes need to hear that, you know, and you're not getting that if you're not in spaces where men are talking about that freely. Okay, so anyway, so this is just one example as an icebreaker. I just want to throw that out there. So so what is the manosphere? Okay, what is it? You know, and I think everybody has an idea of what the manosphere is. I just wanted to throw something up there, you know, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I don't know, it's got to be able to read it. Okay. Well, anyway, so in general, right, let's talk about the manosphere, right? So hopefully y'all can see that. The truth of the matter is, it's a compilation of forums, primarily a social media websites, vlogs, blogs, podcasts. It's supposed to be a safe space for men to get together, to express their opinions on a whole variety of topics, right? Whatever those topics may be, right? Just a spectrum of them, you know, gender roles, if you believe in them, masculinity, you know, identifying what your purpose might be in life, personally, and to your purpose for the community and others. Of course, relationships with women, and everything else under the sun from a male's perspective, looking through the prism of a man. How do we see the world? Because we don't see the world like women see it. And if you're in a space where women's perspective dominates, you can get lost. So you got to have a place where you can sit down and commiserate with men. Commiserate, or you know, commiserate is kind of bad, but at least share your thoughts and ideas with men. You know, have men talk you back from the ledge if you're out there, okay? But the manosphere itself is under extreme attack from the gynocentric pathways that exist in our society. They call it woke culture. They call it, but it seems like all the major networks, movie theaters, news outlets, all of that stuff are leaning towards anti-men propaganda, right? Anti-men content, you know, they're trying to take men and fit them into how women see the world. And that's not where we belong. That's why shit's all upside down. We don't belong there. As men, we don't belong there, you know? And if we act too much outside of our nature for too long, we get lost. All right, so, you know, unfortunately, this is an unfortunate part. And I think this is a part that I think we need to look at. I think this was a lady who did a study years ago in I think the 70s or the 60s, talking about the 5 stages of grief, okay? And we're not really talking about grief, but the 5 stages apply to men who visit and absorb the information from the manosphere. Those 5 stages do apply: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You know, that's the range of how men view the world in the manosphere, and they're dealing with the world now, right? There's got guys who are in denial, like everything is cool, right? The way we get treated in family court, you know, it's not, you know, that's the way it should be. The way we get treated in divorce, you know, that's the way it should be. Just denial of how we're getting our ass kicked with child support, paternity fraud, harsher sentences for the crimes that me or women, not being able to get retaliation for a woman lying on you and ruining your life. Just guys who are in denial to think that that's okay, that there's only a small percentage of women who lie on men. That in itself is a lie. There are so many women who destroy men that they don't even want to calculate it. It's not negligible. It's very, very high. Okay, so, and then of course it's the anger. And the anger part is the part where they key on, right? Men who are stuck in red pill rage, right? Men who can't get out of their own red pill rage. That is where the gynocracy, the feminists, and all these people, they'll key on the anger part, because the anger part speaks loud. And that's the part that brings down the manosphere. Guys who can't get out of their own way of being so mad at women for actually being themselves. Well, being the new caricatures of themselves. Their nature is out of control. There's no controls on women now, right? They're trying to live life without consequence. And it frustrates the men into rage. And that's not a good place to be for men. And then, of course, there's men who bargain. Okay, listen, I'm not going to change these hoes, right? They are who they are. If I want a woman, I got to accept some truths and some, yeah, we could be married, but I can't be the leader in our household. I'm going to share that responsibility because we're equally yoked. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. Because if you're going to have responsibility in your household, you can't bargain the authority. You can. If you are responsible, you have to have authority, or else just your life is going to be fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, there's guys who are in deep depression over the way things are between men and women in relationships and how men are viewed. Those are your incels, right? Because if a man's involuntarily celibate, he's depressed. He's depressed. There's no doubt about it. He's depressed. Okay? So the feminists and the misandrists, both male and female, they key on those things, and that's what they try to ascribe to what the manosphere is. And it couldn't be further from the truth. They're just some components. Yeah, are there red pill rage panels and places to go on TikTok where men are just, spazzing out over women? Yeah, they are. But that's not the majority. That is not the majority. So, and is the manosphere dead? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are spaces everywhere you can go to listen to content from a male's perspective. The Angry Man, MTR, my man, Average Man Unplugged. And these guys try to play it fair, right? I mean, some places, let me give you an example. Obsidian, okay? He was, in a lot of ways, he was extreme. That's why he couldn't stay on YouTube. Even though he had a lot of points, but sometimes he just could, he just had to let it go. And I'm going to play a little bit of something from him as well, because he can push back against some of the hate and vitriol that exists against the manosphere. Then I'm going to let you guys hear a little bit of that, because I want to say, yeah, I'm going to play fair. I dropped the link for anybody who want to come up, and listen, of course, again, we have a rule over here. Hey, what's going on, Braxton? How you doing? And this, yeah, I'm glad you show up anyway, Anissa. Yeah. Hey, listen, a lot of these groups, a lot of these male-centric groups, I help, they just don't publicize them. There's a new brother that's out. He ain't new anymore, but Ask a Brother podcast. He's pretty good. He tries to be fair, balanced. He has women. I wish I would have clipped what he had. He had a whole panel of women, and he was just reading them on how men view what's going on out there. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. Well, you say equally yoked. Yeah, okay. It could be a false premise. I'm not saying it. Listen, it depends on, of course, unfortunately, it depends on the man in a relationship. Too many men accept that. But you know what? When equally yoked can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Doesn't mean that you're equal in terms of how the relationship is run. But y'all can understand each other because you're from the same class structure, right? You'll understand some of the same kind of ways in terms of traditions and things of that nature. That's part of being equally yoked too, right? Anyway, so let me go ahead and I'm going to play this thing for you from this guy. And it's really, really negative, but there's some things that they did here that's not by mistake, okay? It's not by mistake. All right, so let me stop it because I need to share it. All right. All right, so this guy here is been put in place so he can say what he thinks about the manosphere, and you could tell that he's a plant. Okay, he had to be a white man. It couldn't be a woman. It couldn't be a so-called person of color or a black person. It had to be a white man saying the shit that he's going to say, and then Obsidian comes back and just rebuffs the things that he says. But I want to play it to you to see the kind of attack that the manosphere is constantly under. And these things get broad distribution, in terms of views and clicks and things of that nature. And to see what's out there. That's why some guys have lost their platforms, and they got to be careful with what they say because they're under attack. I think a few years ago, was it not the NSA? It was a government agency that the misandrists and the feminists got to put together some stupid report and identify some YouTubers as, like enemy combatants against women. MTR was on that list, and it was also the Legion of Men was on that list, a white dude who comes on every so often. Now, that report didn't go anywhere. Their channels didn't get demonetized or anything, but they had to defend themselves. So let me go ahead and play this guy, just to let you know what we're up against.
Manosphere is dead, and the far right killed it. There's a psychological reason for that. In 2021, researcher Manuel Ribeiro at EPFL in Switzerland tracked over 300 million comments across Reddit and YouTube to study where the Manosphere audiences were going, and what they found was disturbing. Men who started in communities about dating, self-improvement, and men's rights were systematically migrating toward far-right political content. Ribeiro called it the radicalization pipeline. Here's how it works. An angry, lonely man goes online looking for help. He finds a community of other angry, lonely men. They talk about women. They talk about confidence. They talk about purpose. Right-wing media sees millions of these men, isolated, directionless, desperate to belong. And they do what predators do. They move in on them. They tell these men that their loneliness is not their fault. It's feminism. It's immigration. It's the left. It's woke culture. Andrew Tate did not teach men how to be men. He taught them who to hate. Jordan Peterson did not help men find meaning. He helped them find an enemy. Ben Shapiro didn't give men critical thinking. He gave them a political identity disguised as logic.
So if you see, you can see where this guy is getting his talking point from, because it's precisely the left and the feminists and the woke culture, the child mutilators, the people who want to have men and women's sports. All of these kind of guys need to eliminate anything that will make men be able to stand on their feet again, to understand that there's other voices out there and places to go to combat this thing. Now, since when is being on the conservative side of living a bad thing, right? Like me says the right. Of course, I'd rather have conservatives running this country than a whole bunch of bleeding heart assholes who would just let this country go to shit because everybody got to feel nice, right? You know what I'm saying? So then the notion that the only men who come to talk about men's issues are men who are lonely is not true. All right, so Obsidian goes through a lot of the stuff that this guy says because he misquotes this report that he's talking about. A lot of it, okay? He really does. Now, you could go to Obsidian's Facebook page and look it up, and you could go through this whole thing and what he says to rebuff this guy. But you know what? The mainstream press, right, if you look at number one here, said itself, that the men from the right, the men who moved to the right, helped get Donald Trump elected. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. What that meant was that the amount of black men who were sycophantic to their women went down from 90-something% down to 75 or 78%, and the rest of them voted for Trump. And they're, I did, right? Because the Democrat Party has nothing in it for men. Matter of fact, they were talking about, men crying on the stage or something, that the new masculinity is emotional men. I don't agree with that. I don't. Joe Rogan, right? He's widely considered part of the Manosphere. He's widely considered part of the He's got 21 million subscribers. He's one of the biggest podcasters out there. I believe President Trump had like a 2.5-hour free interview with this guy. Free-ranging interview. They talked about everything, right? So there's not these lonely men. I don't think Joe Rogan has any problems getting women. You know what I'm saying? So Obsidian comes back at this guy and debunks a lot of the stuff he's saying, and he's misquoting the report he's coming from and all of that kind of stuff. And so, this is the kind of vitriol that the Manosphere has to put up with. And these guys get a lot of attention and a lot of play because TikTok, men tell you all the time, the women on TikTok can say and do anything, but men who come out against it, this shit gets taken down very quickly. You know what I'm saying? So it's skewed. So the safe places that men do have in the Manosphere have to be protected. They have to be protected, okay? Because they're under constant attack. Yeah, there absolutely are rewards, and those rewards don't come with consequences, especially, and unfortunately, too many guys go for those rewards. So that's what I'm saying. So anybody who wants to drop the link now, unfortunately or fortunately, you got to get on camera for the most part if you want to come up and kick it. So let me go ahead and continue. So I had enough of this guy. Now this guy here, he has some points that I don't agree with, and we're gonna go forward. Let me see what you say. Yeah. Well, just a couple of things. There is a commercial side to why a lot of things are women-centric. The reason why a lot of black churches and a lot of churches, don't really preach the sermons that they used to preach, and they cater to the women because the women put money in the pot, right? The women buy things, and you can't forget the commercial aspect of why it's easier to lean towards that, and that's what it is. So that's one of the things. So let me get rid of this guy. Anyway, so like I said, now there's a couple of content creators that I wanted to show. And the next guy is a place, is an example. I'm going to show an example of a guy who's purely, I think he's kind of MGTOW. He's a white guy, but he really, really looks at the correspondence that's out there. And he looks at it from a male's point of view, and he refutes a lot of things that women say, or he uses what they say, not against them, but to prove a point of where their head's at. And this is the kind of content that I believe that men in general can get information, not to be against women, but to understand and elevate what you're up against. Because I believe if you could understand what has happened to the modern female, you can navigate these waters, because there are women out there who still want men to stand 10 toes down on being men. Believe it or not, but they're surrounded by so many fish, weak men or men who just want box, and women who rather be free and sexually active with anybody they could come up with. They need to see something different. They need to see that a guy ain't going to put up with just random bullshit like that icebreaker. Like if I was my man And my girl, and we're not married or anything, she just showed up to my door and I'm getting prepared for a tennis match the next day. I don't need those kind of surprises. Now, I believe he handled it pretty well. Shelton handled it pretty well. That's his last name. But once that door closed and she got in there, I would have sat her down. I said, listen, first of all, you don't check, I don't know what he said to her, but I would have brought it up. I said, I'm glad to see you, but you know what? It seems to me you're checking up on me, seeing if you're trying to catch me into something. I would have brought that up. I said, listen, I'm preparing for my game the next day. I might just want a good night's sleep. I didn't feel like entertaining anybody. I might not have said that much, but I would have been thinking it because she's here now. But somehow I would have told that lady in the icebreaker, some of y'all might have missed it, but just don't show up to my door, right? She had to get on a plane, bribe the hotel clerks or whatever, and find out where my room is and knock on my door. I might not have been there. Or if I was there entertaining, that would be my bad, but still, you ain't supposed to be checking up on me like that. So as a man, I would have told her, don't you do that shit no more. I mean, it's okay to be surprised, but let's save those kind of surprises for when we're married. And then I wouldn't have anything to say but smile at you. You could surprise me anywhere once we're married. Okay? Anyway, so that's just me. All right, so here's this next clip. And I think some of you guys will think was pretty good. Because this guy is really on top of things. And let me go ahead and show it. At least I think so. All right? This guy is from, Men Need to Be Heard podcast, right? It's a short clip. I'm going to play it from the beginning. I'm going to share it with you and play it from the beginning. I usually download these things, but this one is easy because I don't have that many. All right.
Tells the truth. Or not the truth it's intended to tell, but the truth it couldn't help revealing. And the one, actually two, that I'm about to discuss is revealing in many ways, not the least of which is how women are in full-blown panic over men walking away, and how they're grasping at any straw they can to avoid taking any responsibility for it. We're going to discuss not one, but two articles which illustrate that, and why in the end, it's only going to drive even more men away. And one quick caveat I want to make is that while they are indeed two separate articles, for the most part, I'm going to treat them as one because essentially they both say the same thing. So recently, the New York Post released this article written by one Madison Colombo entitled, "Growing Trend of Hating Men Seems to Backfire as Anti-Marriage Movement Leaves Single Women Losing Out." It's a classic feminist victimhood tale of how men are hurting women by refusing to allow women to paint them as the enemy, by responding to the hate directed at them, not with anger, not with vitriol, but with silence, the silence of walking away. What's interesting is how this article came out just a day after another one, which was in USA Today, an opinion piece written by one Ingrid Jacks, entitled, "Divorce Glow-Ups, Man-Hating Books, I Worry About Marriage," which in a nutshell is an ode to man-blaming and women avoiding responsibility itself. I mean, isn't it interesting how two articles essentially saying the same thing came out within a day of each other? Two articles which talk about how women say that men are the problem because they refuse to sit still and allow women to bash them. I mean, the fact they came out within a day of each other, well, coincidence? Methinks not. No, this is another typical feminist tactic, one where they make a claim, then have others repeat it, and cite it until said claim becomes the narrative, becomes the truth. It's exactly how they created the phony wage gap, how they created the lie that women, and only women, are victims of domestic violence, created the misrepresentation that only 2% of allegations are false, created the outright falsehood that women couldn't have credit cards or bank accounts of their own prior to 1974, when in
See, all these things he just cited is absolutely true, right? Because my aunt was, all of them had their jobs. They all were working, in the 1960s, 1950s. They all had bank accounts. Some of them got married. A couple of them never got married, but they had no trouble getting loans, getting money, bank accounts. It wasn't the 70s. Some of them got them in the 50s, in the early 60s. So firsthand, this was just, a lot of that trope that women couldn't have a credit card. It was bullshit, or bank accounts. A lot of it was bullshit.
In fact, they did and could. This new claim is that women are being harmed because men have chosen to walk away rather than continue to be attacked. Just the next iteration of that tactic. So let's break it down. Let's talk about what's really being said. On the surface, it's about something called hetero-pessimism, a new term someone pulled out of their ass designed to label and discredit men by defining it as women's growing feelings of disappointment and antagonism towards relationships with men. Translation: women are pissed that men heard them say they wanted men to leave them alone and then did so. Both articles cite Louise Perry as the one who apparently created this term and its definition. And then they go on to use the premise to basically excuse women's behavior. Again, let me restate what was being said, which is that somehow women's feelings of antagonism and disappointment towards heterosexual relationships with men is justified because, well, it's men's fault that women told them to go away and not approach them. And then the men did exactly what the women requested. How dare they, those monsters? I mean, the logic, or more precisely, illogic of it all, is astounding. Think about that definition for just a moment, which if you do, I think you'll find it's as pretty remarkable as I do, because essentially what it means is that we've reached a point where there's an accepted term describing growing pessimism towards relationships with men.
Well, listen, so here's my thing. When I hear this guy, I've seen him several times before, and I would imagine, just like you, that most of his subscribers and are men, and there's probably a whole bunch of women who listen to him just so they can hear what he's saying, so they can try to refute it at some point. But the truth of the matter is, if you go on TikTok, if anybody who's a real big TikToker, and because those short little clips with all the ladies with the followers and all that kind of shit, and they come up with this kind of stuff, you'll find no shortage of the things that he's saying on TikTok. I mean, there's absolutely no shortage. I mean, just maybe 10 months ago, women were complaining that men were approaching them too much. And now they're complaining because men aren't approaching them enough. And then, of course, and then there's some that, and there's still, and women don't get it, right? They do get it, but they don't care. How about all of those dating gatherings where the men don't show up? And then you'll see TikTok woman after woman talking about they don't understand why men aren't going. And then no matter how many men tell them why those things are not successful, they don't want to hear it because they can't believe that men are not just going to show up when all the women are there. And they know that men who are good with women, they don't need that kind of shit to find women. And then the men who do go to those kind of shows are the men that they reject on a regular basis. Right? So a guy is not going to go there and meet his rejection in real life because he's there looking for a woman. And if he's not a select man, he's just going to be wasting his time. I don't know how many times you got to tell women that. And they spend thousands of dollars, keep trying to have these stupid dating shows. It's crazy. I mean, women are absolutely apeshit crazy. And the fact is, I think it's a natural component of their chaos. It's a natural component. And when men are not involved or in charge, just say, sit your ass down and look at this a little differently. You know, shit just goes to hell in the high water. I mean, let me tell you, in the black community, where we're the only demographic where the women are in full control of most of the men, there's no that's exactly the reason why our community is so effed up. Because women go by feelings and, you know, and not facts, right? How many women do we have to see crying over a son who murdered 10 guys or whatever? And she said, well, he was such a good boy. You know, that kind of stupid shit. Or the teen takeovers and the baby mamaism, blaming it on the guys who weren't shit before they let them go raw. And then all of a sudden you think you're going to make him into a dutiful man. It's just crazy. Just crazy.
Take out all the gobbledygook and put it another way. It's okay for women to not want to be in relationships with men now. Even though men have made it abundantly clear, they're not the least bit interested in relationships with women and have been for some time now. It's almost like they've never heard of.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. The problem is that too many men still want to be in relationships with women, but at the woman's, so I just want to do a little correction. They still want to be in women, but they let the women be in control of the relationship, and it's upside down. You know, if you're going to commit, if a woman wants to commit to you, it's got to be under your terms. If you're going to commit to a woman, she's got to commit to your terms. The other way around just doesn't work. You know, it just doesn't work. You know, it just doesn't work, especially if we're talking about marriage. You're going to marry a woman. If she's not willing to submit to your terms, do not marry her, no matter how pretty she is. Don't do it.
MGTOW, and instead, in a stroke of genius that no one's ever considered before, created this brand new thing called WGTOW. The level of cope, projection, and avoidance going on would impress a lifelong politician. And let's be clear, this didn't happen in a weekend, didn't appear because of one podcast, didn't suddenly materialize because someone posted a spicy take on TikTok. No, what's happening is a reflection of years of changing attitudes, years of changing expectations, years of changing conversations. And here's where the articles get interesting, because they talk about a best-selling novel in which men are portrayed as either incompetent fools or sexist villains. Then they say something I think is the single most honest sentence in either piece. Quote, the men are cartoonish because they reflect a culture that has given up on men and doesn't care to understand them. Let me repeat that because I think it sums up the problem perfectly. A culture that has given up on men and doesn't care to understand them.
All right. So just on that point, remember the other dude who was talking about, you know, the men have been going to the right. Now, all the men on the left who have acquiesced their position as men to women, believe it or not, do you remember the Democratic Party spent $20 million trying to find out how to reactivate or to attract men back to their party? Now, 20 million is not a lot of money, but this is how bad and crazy they was. They wanted men to be attracted back to their party because they know they're losing men. They're losing men to the right wing. They're losing men to the conservative movement, and which is a part of the right wing. But they put a woman in charge of the study. They wanted to bring back men, but they put a woman in charge of the study. That's how broken they are, right? Like a woman is going to try to convince men to come back, as opposed to having a man talk to, hey, listen, there's a space for you in the party, but they can't really find one, right? You know, listen to you see all the mayors, the female mayors, or the commie mayors that's being elected now, and then those blue cities turn to shit in quick, fast, in a hurry, defund the police, this and that, because no men are in charge. None. Can you imagine? Have you seen the latest polls with Kamala Harris? And when she does her interviews, I can't imagine her being president. I can't imagine. Hell with Trump. I don't care about his character or anything else. I couldn't imagine that woman being president of the United States.
Bingo. That's exactly what's been going on, not just now, but for the better part of 6 decades. The only difference is that now men are responding to it, responding by walking away. Now, here's the real question, the one they go to great lengths to avoid bringing up in either article, let alone answering, which is, what if what they're saying, that would be the men, is true? What if we've spent years building a culture that increasingly treats men as a problem to be managed instead of people to be understood? Why is anyone surprised that men have stopped volunteering for relationships after all of that? I mean, is it really that hard to understand? Is it really beyond women's ability to comprehend? Apparently so, because for years I and literally millions of other men have been talking about marriage, talking about dating, talking about family court, talking about unrealistic expectations, talking about the risks every man knows exists. You don't have to agree with every concern. You don't even have to agree with most of them. But just dismissing men's concerns isn't the same as answering them. And I think that's where the conversation has gone off the rails. The article also quotes one Elizabeth Gilbert, who said, the worst thing a woman can do, statistically speaking, is to get married to a man.
Yeah. That's another one of these things. It's so funny because I've been married for most of my life, now that I'm thinking about it. And the truth of the matter is, I can't imagine, I hear all this shit from women, about, their lives are miserable. But then you can't answer the fact that most women outlive their husbands. They outlive their husbands. And whatever they got left, if their husbands were dutiful, they live off of whatever they built, and their husbands are gone. They live longer, right? Than their men, right? I'm not so sure men live longer without being married. But I haven't done those kind of studies. But I do know that men tend to go before their wives, right? So that's just one part of it. So something has to be, listen, I could give you this one. I'm going to let him speak on this. He got a lot of other stuff to say that might not touch upon what I'm going to say. When my wife goes to bed, right? When she goes to bed, she's out like a light within maybe 30 seconds. I mean, and she's been that way for years. And do you guys want to know why? Do you want to know why? Because she doesn't have to worry about the shit that's out there because I handle it all. She doesn't have those worries. Not because she's shielded, not because she doesn't know things exist. It's because she trusts me to handle the shit that she don't need to. So when it's time for her to rest, she can rest. That's, and I don't walk around and use that as some kind of barometer to get stuff back from her. It's just, I thought that's what's supposed to be natural for it. I take it as a compliment that she feels comfortable enough to rest in her femininity. Now, I got to say my wife caters to me, all the time. I got to say it, and I love that. But let me tell you, this whole notion that women somehow are hurt by men being married, it's just bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit.
Of course, she gives no citation for said statistics, mostly because there isn't any legitimate ones to cite. The fact is, the overwhelming data shows that married women are not only happier, but live longer and earn more money than their single counterparts. Something that Ingrid Jacks, to her credit, pointed out in her article. Later, it quotes another statement from Gilbert when she says, marriage is a very good deal for men. It's not a good deal for women. I'm guessing she's never spoken to a married man in her life, because the real male loneliness epidemic isn't single men who aren't interested in dating. No, it's married men stuck in relationships with women who ignore and mistreat them, with no way for them to escape other than to lose everything they've built over the years to the very woman who's ignoring him. And here's the thing, whether you agree with those statements or not isn't my point. My point is that ideas have consequences. Culture has consequences. Messaging has consequences. And when multiple generations of men are growing up repeatedly seeing and hearing that marriage is a losing proposition, that relationships are something to escape, that the opposite sex is more burden than benefit, then how can anyone really be shocked that fewer men, and indeed apparently now women, are deciding not to get married? This isn't a mystery. It's cause and effect. Now, to be fair, I think both of these articles are actually trying to help women. I do think both authors are trying to help women make sense of it all, but failing miserably. Why? Because while they make several salient points, they avoid the biggest one of all, the one that needs to be made the most, which is that women have no one to blame but themselves. They don't in any way really hold women accountable at all. They don't assign them any responsibility whatsoever. Yet the fact is that responsibility is almost entirely theirs. It's women who've created this environment. They weaponized Me Too and Believe All Women. They made false allegations against men of assault, SA, or just plain creepiness by the millions every year. They've told men repeatedly that they didn't want them, didn't need them, and don't want them to approach. Men listened. Oh boy, did they listen. And they responded, not with anger, but indifference. Men chose not to scream, not to yell, not to make millions upon millions of TikToks bashing women like women have done to men. No, instead, they just turned and walked away. And they're not going to be coming back anytime soon. Which brings me to the final point that I want to make. Because one thing...
The only thing maybe he could touch on is that, yeah, you want to walk away from the grind of trying to find a wife, trying to be dedicated to a woman when it's just very difficult to ferret out which woman is worth your energy and your time and all that and your money. But, if you're... I gotta ask, what are you doing about getting laid? Are you just buying some box? Is there like is there? I mean, first of all, you got to be careful because you just can't buy box from anybody. And if you're a regular man, I don't care how much women get on your nerves, you're gonna want to bang somebody out at least once or twice. I mean, you're gonna want to have some sex. So if the MGTOW movement, which I understand about men going their own way, but every so often you got to say, hey, honey, you can't just be using your hands all the time, right? There's gotta be some way, a pathway to get to a honey, pay a couple of dollars, and then go back to your ways of not having to, wake up with her next to you. Listen, I know that's something that a guy like him might not want to talk about, but this whole thing about going your own way has to have some component on what does a man do to get laid, because you can't just be masturbating all the time. You just can't.
I find fascinating is the timing of it all. For years, plenty of men have been out there saying they were opting out. Most stopped using dating apps. Many stopped approaching women at all. More and more are delaying marriage or saying they will never see the benefit in doing it. The majority of men now have decided that remaining single makes more sense for them. And I don't say that as a flex. Don't even say it with any real joy. It's just simply fact. Fact that no one, most of all women and the authors of these articles, wants to admit.
Well, listen, any of you ladies out there, y'all have some. If y'all want to come up, I dropped the link. It's in there. Amanize, it's good to see you here. I know Catalia's here a lot, but listen, if you have an opinion, you can keep it in the chat, or if you want to pop up, feel free. Feel free.
For a long time, that conversation received very little curiosity. It was often met with ridicule, with assumptions, with the idea that the only possible explanation was that something was wrong with the men, what caused them to make those decisions. But now, the conversation has shifted. Now, major publications are asking why relationships seem increasingly difficult. Now we're hearing concerns about loneliness, not just for men, but women. We're hearing about declining marriage and birth rates, about fewer families being formed. And yes, those are absolutely worthwhile conversations. In fact, ones I think we must have. But here's the part I think that is still missing. If we genuinely are interested in understanding why people are making different choices, then we have to be willing to hear the explanations they actually give, not the explanations we assume they must have. The Post article ends by saying men and women need to find a way back to each other. And I agree with that completely.
Right.
I don't think healthier relationships come from more resentment. I don't think stronger families come from more contempt. And I don't think either sex benefits from viewing the other as a caricature. But finding a way back starts with something simple, something that so far hasn't happened, which is that people need to start listening, actually listening to what we men have to say. They need to not just listen to their concerns, but acknowledge them, not just dismiss them, or worse, ridicule them, as so many women do. Because if one side believes its concerns are automatically dismissed before they're even heard, then trust doesn't grow. It shrinks. Respect doesn't grow. It shrinks. And when trust and respect disappear, especially for men, they don't make a dramatic speech. They don't slam the door. Most don't even announce anything. They just simply stop showing up, which is exactly what men have been doing for going on 20 years now. And more will be doing so for the next 20 years to come. Maybe, just maybe, understanding why they stopped showing up is the better place to begin. Better than...
All right. So listen, like I said, the guy, he had a point. Yes, like I said, he has a point. The truth of the matter is, that kind of his show, his panel, his podcast is something that men need. Now, not because you have to agree with him, it's because it puts certain things that might have been in your mind in perspective. Why is it like that in trying to deal with the opposite sex? Now, listen, men haven't changed over the last 60 years as much as women have. To tell you the truth, we haven't changed over the last few thousand years as much as women have, right? Because men have spent, especially, let's just say in the West, since America has been formed, most of the laws that we started to put in place, especially in the 1900s, the social laws was to make this place a safer place for women to exist. Right? If you think about the laws that have been passed, the paternity laws, the marriage laws, the child support laws, the removing the protections of married men from taking sex from their wives, that was just outlawed finally by the last state in 1990, in the 1990s. That's recent. So the truth of the matter is men have put a lot of things in place so women could benefit from them, especially in the West. So when we hear women in the West talk all this bullshit, you guys have a better life than I think women in any other part of the world. Maybe somebody in Denmark or one of those places might have a better living as a woman. But in most of the world, nobody lives as well and without consequence as the American woman. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And if you're an American black woman, women with no consequence whatsoever, other than when they F up, they have to live with what they've done, nobody checks them. Nobody. So men can't live that way. None of us can. Men who try to live that way, the society comes down on us with a big ass hammer. I could tell you this, and I'm gonna just put this black thing. The reason why black women hate Donald Trump, 92% of them do, it's not because he has low character. It's because he doesn't take shit from women. That if you match him with any kind of energy, he'll match that shit right back. And he doesn't give a shit that you're a woman. And women can't stand that, especially black women. They can't stand that. Because character can't matter to black women as much as they say. Look at all the babies they have out there with low character men. Right? So it can't just be character. It's the fact that he's a man, who stands up on his own 2 feet. I get a lot of shit in my own family because I don't take the bullshit that a lot of the so-called boss chicks want to have. Hey, hell with that. I'm gonna respect you, but you got to respect me too. you know? And so I don't understand how men could go through life, holding on to a woman's skirt. I just don't understand it. It's shit's crazy. It's upside down. It's broken. You know? I mean, listen, and listen, make no mistake. The guy is a low character dude, so I'll give him that. But character certainly ain't an issue that they could lean on, because we got a whole bunch of low character men in the Black community who are procreating at tremendous rates. So anyway, I have one more video that I want to show, and I cut it up, but I gotta show this video because it's from the one place on YouTube that has no problem calling itself Manosphere, right? And that's Manosphere Weekly. Manosphere Highlights Daily, something like that. I'm gonna play. So, and they got that website, that content creator is absolutely phenomenal. The way they break down a lot of things from a male's point of view, and he spends great pains to make sure that when he talks, he doesn't come down on women or disparage them. He just kind of points out things that are obvious. And so I just kind of clipped up one of his things, one of his shows, and we're going to go with that. And then after that, if anybody wants to come up, or I will just end this thing. But, like I said, the Manosphere and all of that kind of stuff, I wasn't here with the origins. I didn't know it exists. I didn't get onto YouTube and create my channel until 2023, just looking for things to do post-pandemic and stuff like that. And then I found out all of this stuff, people getting around talking about relationships and stuff like that. I was on all these rage panels and in terms of Fight Club and all that kind of stuff. And then you find some places where, you can actually have good conversations. But men need to have spaces where are not dominated by females to say what they have to say and get the point across and come to an understanding on how to deal with life, looking through the prism of a man. It's just required. And like me, I grew up with a lot of women in my house when I was growing up, and I mean, we got along, but there was nobody to really talk to. My pops was around, but when he came around, because he was working, I was with my aunt and all of our cousins in the house. So I had to go seek out male leadership and companionship when I went to college. It's pretty much one of the reasons why I joined the fraternity, which a whole bunch of people hate now, by the way. Not the fraternity members, but the people who are outside of it. Oh, now we're all demons and shit. But that's just another story. But anyhow, here's the last clip I want to go from my man from Manosphere Highlight Daily. And I think we'll get a kick out of this one, because he's good. So let me share that. And let them do the talking.
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Today's guest is Leonardo Orlando, political scientist, Sciences Po Paris, postdoc in evolutionary psychology at ENS, co-authored a book with philosopher Peggy Sastra called Sex, Science, and Censorship. And if what he says sounds familiar, there's a reason. A lot of it traces straight back to David Buss's 1994 book, The Evolution of Desire, the foundational text in this entire field. Orlando isn't inventing anything new here. He's citing the same body of research the Manosphere has been quoting for years, except he's doing it with a PhD and a publisher instead of a YouTube channel. So today, we let him cook. Minimal interruption, maximum receipts. Shout out to Peter Bogosian for this interview. Excuse me if I butchered your name, sir. Let's go.
How are men and women different?
Well, it's very easy. An optimal strategy for males and for females is entirely different. The optimal strategy for males is to inseminate as many females as possible. This is the strategy of males everywhere in nature. And the optimal strategy for females is to be picky, to choose the male that is going to provide either the best genes or the best resources. Well, if we get from these principles that I just mentioned, that what is optimal for males in nature.
Listen, he said something I just don't want to skip off. We don't let him go. If you look at the Black community, and he's talking about all communities, not just talking about ours, but in our Black community, we have the 80-20 rule, but people don't realize it's not the 20 have to be all rich men, right, who have resources. Part of that 20% is also the Pookie and the Ray Ray who women choose to have sex with because they might have a certain aesthetic that woman wants. So he might not, the resource doesn't have to be the money. The resource in this case is the aesthetic. And these women are having babies by guys so they think he's cute. He got nice eyes. He's got good hair. He got time, but he don't got no money, but he bangs it out pretty well. And then they'll give a guy like that a baby, right? So it's not resources from the standpoint of just money. In our community, the Pookies are procreating more than anybody else. Okay.
Sure. It's inseminate as many females as you can. And for women to be very picky, the very first thing that you have is a difference in sex drive. And this is something that you see everywhere in nature.
Right.
And in particular with human beings, you can see this in many different ways. To begin with sexual thoughts. Men are obsessed about sex, and this has been quantified.
Speak for yourself. No,
I'm speaking about stats.
Yeah.
And this stat shows that men, on average, they think about sex at least 4 times more often than women. They dream about sex more often than women. They are literally 99% of clients of prostitution. They are overwhelmingly the consumers of pornography.
4 times more sexual thoughts. This part is well documented and not seriously contested. Why do we have to apologize for our natural instincts to booty tap dance the shit out of women? Not just for pleasure, but because the survival of humanity wills it. Life could be much easier if we worked with it instead of against it.
One of the things that we have to also is when you go, again, I use TikTok because of the short clips, where you hear women say that, why do men just want to have sex with us? Why do they, why don't they want to get to know us? Why they don't want this? Why they don't want this? How come they always have? Listen, and here's the problem that I think I think it's willful ignorance or just being willfully obtuse. Even married men who eventually married a woman, when they first meet her, he wants to have sex with her. If a man's going to brave rejection to come up to you to talk to you, for the most part, if it's not in a professional setting where we know what it is that we're doing in some kind of courtroom or thing, he might want to have sex with, but he got to curtail all that. But in a social setting, he doesn't just want to meet you so y'all could sing tiddlywinks together. He wants to have sex with you. He does. I mean, get that shit straight. So how the relationship builds or doesn't build from there, it's okay. But it's okay for a man to want to have sex with you. It's okay. He's not going to get it most of the time. The vast majority of the guy, he's not going to get it, but it's not going to stop thinking about it. And if you put him in your orbit and make him one of your random male orbiters because he provides something that you need, and you don't give him the sex, believe me, he'll stay and play the long game until you break down, if you ever do.
This translates into these things that I am mentioning, but also into the willingness for example, casual sex. And there is a very famous study that was done in the late 70s. And the year is very important. I'm going to say why. This study was originally done in the US, and then it was replicated all over the world in different cultures, and everywhere you are obtaining the same results. Okay. The study is called, Would You Like to Go in Bed With Me? And essentially, the scenario is the following. You have an attractive female that it's in the street, and when a man comes, she just stops kiss and says, I find you very attractive, I live upstairs, would you like to go up and have sex? And then you have the opposite scenario, an attractive male that does the same thing with a female. So in your view, what's the percentage of men that says, yes, sure, let's go? And what's the percentage of females who said, yes, let's do it?
I would say 98%.
And women?
Women, I would say 0.01%.
Well, you are surprisingly accurate. For men, it's 75%.
Oh, that's all.
That's all. But wait, because it's going to get more interesting. You will see.
Okay.
And for women, it's literally 0%. Zero.
Oh, it's not even
Not
0.01.
even 0.1.
Listen, even in the sexually promiscuous times that we live in, it doesn't those numbers make sense? And that's why when I sit around and tell and say that women absolutely are in control of the sexual marketplace, you'll get a whole bunch of men saying, no, I can get boxed anytime I want. I'm in control. But they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. The sexual marketplace belongs to the women. When it's chaotic, it's because women want it chaotic. When it's more subdued, it's because women are withholding more. You know, and this experiment alone, it's not a surprise. This is more of a surprise that only 75% of the men will go for when a pretty woman is offering them back. But wait till he gives you the explanation. And it's not a surprise at all that if you walked up to a random chick and just say, hey, honey, you look good. My apartment is upstairs. Let's go up and have sex. I think 0 is a high number. I think 0 is a high number, but it's exactly what you would expect.
0. And this was replicated all over the world, different cultures, even, for example, Nordic cultures that we know are the most open ones. And also I mentioned the years that this was originally done. Why were important the years? Because this was after the sexual revolution of the 60s, 70s in the US, but before the HIV pandemic. So the years where, you have like full sexual liberation and not so much, sexual fear regarding diseases. So what you have there is these results. But here's when it gets interesting, as I was mentioning, the males, the 25% of males that were saying no, were apologizing, were saying, I'm sorry, I have a wife, I have a girlfriend, I am late for a job interview.
Or they're gay.
That I don't know, at least in the study maybe, but in any case, there was an explanation. While 100% of women that said no, the reaction was, I quote, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Even the men who declined apologized. The women who declined were horrified anyone would ask.
And then you have this incarnated in many other dynamics, because if men have sex drive, it will imply that they have a very different relationship with one-night stands. Yes, let's start by the end. And
so he's going to go through the one-night stand scenario, and again, I believe places like this channel and other channels that express the world from a man's point of view actually helps. It actually helps. And this channel here is really, really good because he goes through some movies, he goes through all kinds of stuff where he extracts how to view some of these things from a male perspective. And this guy is pretty good on not this dude on the thing, but the guy who runs this channel. Now, he doesn't show his face. He's always showed up like this, but he's pretty good. So I'm kind of endorsing this channel. If you ever get a chance to see some of these videos, if you haven't already, it's pretty good. So I was glad I grabbed one for this particular show.
In the chapter that we have in our book about one-night stands, we have a whole chapter about vocational sex, and we conclude this chapter asking the reader to think that maybe the feminists who push women into having one-night stands, behave like men, if at the end of the day they don't hate women and then don't enjoy seeing women being miserable.
This is pure gold. Sit with that, gentlemen. He's asking whether the same effeminist encouraging women to work casual sex, behavior that, by his own data, correlates with regret for a huge share of women, either secretly hold men's values or actually enjoy watching women suffer for it.
So here there is the same thing. Usually men enjoy one night stands for the sake of it, just because they enjoy it. Men, when you check, is like the overwhelming majority of men after one night stands, they report very positive feelings. They're extremely happy. Men usually regret the opportunities that they miss rather than the one night stands that they had. You know,
There's absolutely no doubt about that. If you're a guy and you've ever left some good trim on the table and you didn't take it, you actually do regret it. I mean, you move past it, or you better, but you regret it. Oh man, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. That shit happens. Back in the day when I was halfway decent looking, but
position to women. Women, over 30%, actually almost 40% in the studies that we have, regret having had one night stands. 80% of the women that
they used to regret it. And the fact that one of the reasons that I think we have a major issue with women today in the West with the promiscuity is because they stop regretting the things that they used to regret. There's so many women now who could pull up their pants still dripping and act like nothing happened with a stranger. There's a whole lot more of them that could do this today. There's a lot of women out there who could serve multiple masters in the bed. And somehow when they get to the age of discernment, 30, 32, 33, they might have 2 or 3 or 4 kids by different men. And now they're going to want somebody to come in and give them the straight weight of the dedication and love as if they weren't like used cars. And that's where the trauma comes in, right? And like I said before, one night stands are not good for either men or women. The men do it, but they don't know sometimes it comes back to haunt them. But when women do it, at some point, your conscience has to say, I feel cheap. And more women used to feel cheap. And so now we know that when women start to want to calm down and get into a serious part of life, they bring all of that trauma with them. And if you do any analysis of women who have had a lot of sex in their 20s and 30s, all of their trauma can be traced back to the tip of a man's penis. All of them, no matter what. Just a couple of questions and you'll find out that it was a man's penis somewhere in there.
Regret having had one night stands, they express negative feelings, sentiments of, feeling diminished, less value, all these kind of things. So this is also because men engage in one night stands, once again, for the sake of it, while usually women is for the particular reason of maybe getting into a relationship with the guy or not missing an exceptional opportunity.
Here's what 20 years in this space has shown me, and Orlando is actually pointing at it himself without saying it directly. He keeps calling resources the most important thing women select for, and resources isn't just a paycheck. It's status, access, a role in a film, a seat at the table.
What we must always keep in mind is that during all of our evolutionary history till yesterday, with the invention of the pill and all that, sex equaled pregnancy. So this is important. And the idea is like which females were able to raise the most children that grew up and had children of their own. The ones that had sex, therefore that got pregnant with the first loser that show up, or those that were, picky with the male that they were choosing.
Now, the key here is he's saying that was the way it was before the pill. Women had to be very, very careful because pregnancy and the deletion, you couldn't do it the way you do it now. So you had to be selective because everything rested on you having the right lineage, the kids that you wanted to procreate through the future. But after the pill came, that began to change.
Ones that were picky, because those were the ones that were making sure that the man was providing either resources or good genetics, or both.
Till yesterday, one sentence, and it reframes the entire modern dating conversation. For nearly all of human history, sex meant pregnancy. Full stop. The pill didn't just change technology. It detached female sexual choice from its evolutionary logic almost overnight, and biology hasn't caught up.
During which we evolved. So the thing is this, and we start this chapter talking about the story of an American young man, 26-year-old, I believe, that the guy became kind of famous because he shared his Tinder stats. And these Tinder stats, official stats from his application, not something that he was claiming, he liked over 2 million profiles.
He liked over 2 million profiles. Wow.
He liked over 2 million profiles. That's a little bit extreme, of course, because it means like it was like over once.
Yeah,
bachelor's degree or higher.
Much is still a lot, but from 2 million likes, it's a lot. From these 1,000 matches, he got around 100 conversations. From these 100 conversations, he got one date. That was unsuccessful.
You think? But this is what men do, gentlemen. They're gonna test this shit. They're gonna figure it out. We got airplanes, smartphones, and artificial freaking intelligence. We men and we shit.
But here's when it becomes interesting.
Okay.
So I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but almost every woman wants men that are at least 6 foot tall, 183 centimeters. Little problem though. Only 14.5% of Americans, of American men, are 6 foot tall, 6 foot or taller. So already you are restraining yourself to this 14% of men. But then you have, of course, what you were mentioning regarding a job. And in order to get a job, you need to have a university degree. That nowadays, a university degree, unfortunately, is the key predictor of success in life. Women, they do not want to touch men without a university degree. This is what data shows. Another little problem, though. In the United States, you have around 21% of men over 18 that have a university degree.
One correction here, because it matters. That 21% figure is wrong. Actual US consensus data puts it all just over 37% of men with a bachelor's degree or higher, nearly double what he says on camera. The underlying point still holds. The exact number just doesn't. The Manosphere has been talking about this for decades.
You find the same.
And also for black men in the black community, there's some of the upper crusty women say they want a man with a degree, but that's not stopping women from having babies with guys who don't even have jobs. So, and there's still a majority they're just popping them out. So, so he's trying to put a fine line through society in general, not looking at specific demographics. But that also tells you that our demographics in the black community is even below this cut line that he's talking about.
Seeing once and again, the most important thing for women is resources in a potential partner. And this, of course, is the same thing everywhere in nature. It's like other females, they, in the rest of nature, for example, birds, it's like the females inspect the nest that the males are building. So these kind of things. So you have all these cumulative things that women want and that get us to the 4% of men that they like. And this is when it becomes very interesting, because the modern, educated, empowered, liberated woman of the 21st century, with the power of her finger, is reproducing exactly the same system that we see in gorillas or elephant, sea elephants, not elephants, sea elephants. This system, a polygenic system, where only the males that are on the top reproduce, and all the others do not.
Wow.
And we know that this has been the case for humans by genetic data. We know genetically that most fertile women in our evolutionary history, in all the history of our species, have reproduced, while only a few of men have reproduced.
Like we always say, women are women first. This means we're talking about her nature, her instinct, her mate selection mechanics. The mechanism is the same one running in nature everywhere else.
The problem with this is that this is bad for everybody. Why? Because you have most women that they're all competing for the same males. You have most males that are just being ignored, and then you have the winners that is some kind of Pyrrhic winning. Why? Well, it's what we call the Leonardo DiCaprio effect. Leonardo DiCaprio, over 50, I believe, always dating the hottest women on earth.
Younger.
But he has no children.
Yeah.
So what's, the reproductive success of Leonardo DiCaprio? As of today, from an evolutionary point of view, is zero, because he's not using this succeed in order to, spread his genes.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Every headline says winning, evolutionary. By Orlando's own framework, he's a dead end. Ho ho. No children, genes not passed on. The most successful man in the modern dating hierarchy is, by the actual metric this entire theory is built on, failing at the one thing the theory says men are optimized for. That contradiction is worth sitting with. It's the clearest evidence in this whole interview that modern status and evolutionary success have quietly come apart from each other, and neither the top 1% nor the men getting 0 matches have fully clocked it yet.
All right, so that's the end of that. So listen, again, this is information. Some of the stuff you could refute if you want to bring it back to just our society, and it's interesting stuff. Now, these, like I said, these are spaces for men to get perspective, right? You don't have to become a 100% believer in anybody's stuff, but it's good to have spaces where men could talk. Even here on Black Man Unfiltered, we could talk. We have panels, flipping tables. We'll have some panels on Fridays once in a while about the barbershop. We'll get in the barbershop and we'll talk men talk and things of that nature. However, there it is. What you mean, how is it he's not a baby daddy? He makes sure. See? Oh man, you know what? We don't know, man. He probably has them make sure they don't have no babies on. Yeah, well, listen. Hey, listen, it ain't that hard not to get pregnant if you don't, and it's not that hard not to get a woman pregnant if you're doing shit right. It really is. I mean, so whatever he's doing, he's making sure that there's no babies that come out of that. That's for sure. So he's obviously he's not going raw the way just random people are. But anyway, listen, I just thought I'd touch on the Manosphere because I haven't had any conversations about the Manosphere specific, but it's alive and well. There's channels out there for the Manosphere. It's not going anywhere. The examples I've shown is just small examples, and men are starting to get their voices heard. And whether women want to hear them or not, they're paying the consequences of their willful ignorance. And it's all over TikTok, especially as they approach 30 years old and things of that nature. And they keep, flexing, and they keep doing things as solo acts, understanding that, once you try to rely on yourself and only yourself, now you're a single point failure, right? Because you'll have nobody covering you, nobody, backing you up except you, leaning on your own understanding, chaotic understanding, by the way, for a lot of women, your feelings. And so anyway, so the Manosphere is here to stay. I should have had maybe some clips from the Angry Man, maybe some Don Lexi or some from a few other guys. But hey, listen, we know that they're out there. Viva la Manosphere is here to stay. And no matter what the feminists and the misandrists try to do, we ain't going nowhere. And so there you have it. Men are going to start to, and I believe, are starting to stand 10 toes down, okay, on reclaiming their rightful position at the head of society. And that doesn't mean that there's no space for women. I'm just saying that I think we have the receipts that without men in the rightful spots, society is going to hell. And if America gets turned over to the feminists again in the next election on a federal scale, they're going to reopen the borders. They're going to flood the cities with a whole bunch of illegal people that they can't afford. And this place is going to be a disaster, especially now that they're communists taking over. And for the black people out there, you voted for Mondani. You black people who voted for that lady in Seattle, you deserve everything that you're going to get, okay? Everything that you're going to get, you're going to deserve. Because Mondani's going to have you guys homeless when the city takes over some of those apartment buildings that he's going to confiscate from those landlords who can't keep it up because they froze all the rent. They can't make money on those properties anymore. And in those stupid stores that he put up there trying to give you a forced 30% discount, they're going to run out of produce and they're going to limit how much you could buy. And guess who pays for the difference? You do, out of taxpayers' money, because if he's selling shit for 30% cheaper than it is value, they're not making money on it. So the store has to be subsidized by taxpayers. You goddamn idiots. And so I'm telling you, he's going to destroy the city. And guess who's going to pay for it? You people are going to pay for it. And so, listen, sometimes you get what you vote for. And in Seattle, we're starting to see that place fall apart. And in Chicago, we don't even need to talk about Brandon Johnson. You can't, these guys are losers. You need some conservative thinkers. And we need more women who are conservatives, by the way, who are true conservatives to take over, as opposed to the liberal fools with bullhorns. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm done. Thanks, Victoria, and Eyes, for showing up. Anissa, as usual, popping in a little bit. Everybody, some of the new folks that came in, I appreciate it. So this is, I guess, a short show. BMU, thanks a lot, and all that kind of stuff. I'm out of here, and we'll see you next Monday. I'll come up with something else to talk about.